Well, politics, no doubt, is a crucial aspect of governance, and the media's focus on it can be seen as a way to hold those in power accountable. While the media's focus on politics might lead to limited coverage of other important issues such as social, economic, and cultural developments, it is essential for the media to strike a balance between covering politics and other critical issues that affect the lives of Nigerians. By doing so, the media can provide a more comprehensive picture of the country's situation and promote informed public discourse. Well, joining me on Arise Prime Time to examine this issue is a communication scholar, broadcast journalist, and lawyer, former DG, NTA, and NOA, now Chancellor of the newly licensed University of Communication, Benin City, the first in Africa, Professor Tonnie Iredia. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
I say my pleasure to have you.
Thank you indeed.
Join me on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Time. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I will start this way. I mean, when you were DGNTA, I mean, I watched one particular interview. I mean, your point blank, one particular interview with the then governor of Anambra State, Chris Ngige, and it was interesting to see how you ask probing, uncomfortable questions, but still with a smile on your face. Paint a brief picture of how the media was then and how it is now. What is missing? What has been added? What more needs to be added?
Okay, thank you very much. I think a lot of people keep saying that, the media is no longer doing well, or there's been a decline, and so on and so forth. It's not exactly so. There are many things that are happening now that didn't happen in my time. So in terms of human capacity development, maybe the media has not done too well this time. But in terms of facilities, of course, media is better now. I remember in my days as a young reporter, we had a camera in the studio, and in the morning we have to knock it 3 times before it can work. So if you look at the situation today, where you don't have to do any of those, you don't have to travel when you go and cover an event to bring the story back physically. You just upload your story and it goes on. So it's almost instantaneous, and so there's everything about breaking news, everything about promptness and all of that. So when you compare that era with this era, certainly this is a better era. But when it comes to how the human beings work, certainly there's a decline. Now, what has happened is that the media of today has adjusted to the pace of the society.
What do you mean by that, adjusting to the pace of the society?
Everybody is hustling in society today. Yeah. So when you are hustling, you're not going to have enough time for professionalism. You're not going to have enough time to settle down to say, what actually is the real meat of this story?
Is there any way that can be tweaked or changed? Because hustling is going to go on in the world.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that the media has declined, but you will be doing a lot of damage if you think it is just the media. There's also the issue of the society.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, the society,
the influence of the society on the media.
The trends, not interest, the trends, what others are doing. Otherwise, the media will be left behind. Because as people keep saying, we all go to the same market.
Yeah.
So if everybody is hustling to make ends meet, and you are professionalizing, how do you make ends meet?
Well, now, does it seem like, just like I read a while ago there, does it seem like politics has taken the airwaves, digital space, print, and subjugated, as it were, the issues of governance and delivering dividends of democracy to the people?
It's not as if it appears. It's exactly so. And it's been on for quite a while, and some of us had been raising the alarm that, look, in governance, there is a period for electioneering. After that, there's a period for elections, that is casting ballot. After that, there's institutionalization of government. After that, there's governance, right? In today's Nigeria, all the first 3 I mentioned are still there, but they all go beyond their era into governance. So rather than focusing on governance, we're always talking about the next election that may be 6, 7, 4, 3 years away, right? And so the focus that should be on governance is taken away. And the politicians are busy looking for how they can get the next election. And so they are playing their own game because they want survivor. Now, this is where the issue comes in. It is the journalists whose duty it is to pull them back and say, no, sorry, this is not a period for electioneering. This is a period of governance. So we want to see projects. We want to see what you are doing. We want to tell the public what you are doing. We don't want to tell the public what your ambition is. We have passed that stage. Now, the journalist is not able to do that as of today. All right? For so many reasons. One, the decline that I'd mentioned. Two, the kind of robust politicking that we have now taken. The politicians are the ones who make decisions. They are the ones who determine.
They set the agenda.
They set the agenda, right? And yet, everyone says the agenda setting role belongs to the media. But in Nigeria, it has gone to the politicians. And that is where I think the media must sit back again and introspect and tell themselves, are we failing in our duty? Is somebody usurping our role? Are we merged with some other people? If so, is the media going to be eclipsed very shortly?
I remember one of your interviews. Now it just came to my memory. No, it wasn't an interview. It was at a press conference. You were invited, and just like you're speaking now, you were invited, and the man who replaced an earlier, maybe a governor or something, was reeling out the bad aspects, what the other guy hasn't done and hasn't done and hasn't done, and when he ended and landed. Your question was, we know all that you've talked about, what hasn't been done. But what are you bringing to the table? What are you doing? That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it. When you go to a press conference, you don't allow the politicians to change the trends in society. You are the journalist, you determine the news angle. So many things happen. It is what you say you are going to start with, that is the news angle. The politician cannot write your report for you.
True.
If they do, as many of them are doing now, it's either you are lazy or you are compromised, right? So if the journalist is the owner of the news angle, then the news angle should reflect the interest of society, not necessarily what the man who wants the press conference to be called is doing.
And that was why the politicians during that time, particularly of when Obasanjo was the president, didn't seem to like you. Because you tell them, you're not the one that determines what makes news. We determine, not you telling us. But how has the issues such as external influence, by this I mean government control, ownership structure, financial independence, provided fire for this trend that you're talking about?
Well, I think we need to be fair. See, if somebody sets up a medium, he has a goal.
By dictating the tune.
He has a goal, all right? And so you cannot really change that goal, but you can determine what segment of what you are doing is to be allocated to that goal. For example, we are in Arise now.
Yeah.
If the owner of Arise is interested in a particular story for which payment had been made, then there's a segment for advert. It should be restricted to the segment for advert. When the segment for news comes, then one should be able to see the news value in what you reel out. Not just, they have paid for this story and therefore you're going to take it hook, line and sinker and disturb the rest of society with somebody's personal interest. Right? Even when a story is paid for, you still have a duty as a professional to give out the aspect of it that is news and then to allow the aspect that is paid for to be clearly a sponsored story.
So you can really divide that?
You can.
Even when the person has paid?
Yes. The payment does not change the fact that you are the professional. It only shows that his story will have a slot. But the making of that story cannot be changed. You cannot begin to tell lies because truth is the main ethical value of the media. If the person who has paid wants a lie told, you can't tell it.
You can't tell the lie.
What that suggests is that you still have, a determining role in what the public hears.
Should see, what they should hear.
That's why we say that the best definition of news is that news is what the media says is news.
Best definition of news is what the media says is news.
Yes.
And that must be a media that is upright and sets the agenda. Why do you say that the political class is more problematic than the military? And does this make the work of the media more challenging?
I don't know whether they are more problematic, but I know that they are both problematic. I know that during the military era, the rigidity of the military system was such that they will want to impose it on you, that this is what they want done. The politicians also have their own goals. They want it done. But my point is this, if we may be practical a little bit. At the beginning of this administration, the country faced the election of new presiding officers for the National Assembly. The Senate President and the Speaker of the House and their deputies, all right? Those selection of those officers were supposed to be an internal affair. Why did the media allow the politicians to turn it into a public affair? Nothing else was happening in the country anymore. Everything was on the selection of leaders of the National Assembly, which is a purely private matter. It's like a group setting up who should be their leader, and then it now looked as if the President of Senate was elected by all of us. We didn't elect the President of Senate. We are not voters. We won't be allowed to vote when the Senate President will be chosen. So it's an internal matter. And therefore, the media should have sought to internalize that issue when the politicians were externalizing it. When they were carrying paid adverts, all sorts of things about the elections of Senate President and Speaker, we should have let them realize that the Senate President and the Speaker of the House are just first among equals, picked by you yourself. It doesn't have anything to do with us, all right? But we allowed it. So rather than government being made to tell us what they are doing, we were seeing the election of Senate President, the election of Speaker, as the issue of the day. How does that interest you and I?
Really? How does that really interest you and I? It seems like it seems like most of the media have carried that and seen it as what to do, and one wants to outdo the other. So it's like if you don't take that on your front page, on your television, that you're missing out.
Well, yes, it may look so because the media is still engaged in some unnecessary competition. As far as I'm concerned, the age of competition has passed, because in those days when news was once a day, you may be struggling to lead because everybody is waiting for that time. But now news is every hour, so in some cases half hourly. So when you are struggling to lead, there are people who are not even watching you at that time. So what are all the struggles you have made, they don't hear it until another person has said it at the time they want to watch, right? Which is how the usage of media is also important. It's not just what the media says. Yeah. What about those you are talking to? If they are not willing to watch at that time, somebody does not switch on his set, does not tune to Arise until 6, whatever you are saying before 6, he can't see it.
You were invited only once to the media chat by OBJ, Obasanjo. Never again. Why?
Well, maybe we all have different reasons for why. It would have been better for you to ask those who invite people. But when I was invited, I did advise that I didn't want to be on it for 2 reasons. One, my program is point blank, and I believe in program identification. I don't believe in jumping from one program to the other, as many of our younger people do today. You see them reading the news, the next time they are doing MC somewhere, the next time they are doing interviews somewhere,
Well, it's part of the hustling.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But in my own time and my person, I didn't believe in that. So I believe that whenever I appear on air and I say good evening, people should be expecting point blank, not media chat, not any other thing. So I said I didn't want it. Secondly, I knew that the questions I would ask would not be good. So it is better to just stay off. So I
To them,
yeah,
not good to you, or to the
them,
public.
they are the ones who
yeah.
are interested, you know. So, and I said to them, I said, look, I come from a place where proverbs is what we use to say things. So in my place, they say, instead of calling the person who will not answer you, just call the person who is not at home.
Instead of calling the person who will not answer you.
Yes, call the person who is not at home.
Okay.
Because the person that will not answer you, even if you are calling him in your presence, he won't answer. But the one who is not at home will not hear. So you can console yourself.
Okay, that's all right.
It's because he was not at home. So I did advise, but they didn't hear. They said I should come. The president said I should come. I said, okay, so I came there. And I asked a simple question. And President Bason just said everything he wanted to say, and everybody was shouting and quarreling.
No, what was the question? I would like to, let us hear the question.
Okay, I wanted to know whether the rumor that Obasanjo and Atiku were fighting using African magic, whether the rumor was true. And the president said, well, I don't know about it. You should go and ask Atiku. They brought 7 cows and killed them and said I would die after 7 days. I didn't die. So the handlers of the president didn't want this. But the president said them. So I just asked my question.
Simple.
Maybe that's why I wasn't invited again.
I never appeared there again. All right. Before we get to TIUC, let's talk about a military governor once told you your questions were nasty and he would detain you and nothing will happen. And then on live television, another military officer threatened to shoot you. How was the experience like?
I don't know why you're reminding me of all of these things where I've forgotten about them. You see, maybe I was very young and enthusiastic and exuberant, so none of these things really bothered me. But mine was just to ask questions, and it wasn't only the military, even politicians. There are many of them who came onto my program.
I remember your encounter with Zik of Africa.
Good. You know, Zik said he wouldn't answer anyone. He stood up and he was going to leave, you know, and it was a live program. So your capacity to manage your guest comes into play.
Good.
You have to find different ways of making, you know, when your guest is very agitated, you tell him that, well, you may be agitated, but this is the only opportunity you have to say your side of the story. So that the public will stop holding things against you.
Good.
Then the person calms down and say, yes, okay, if that's the case, well, what happened was this.
Just massage his ego a little bit.
So that's it. But as for those threatening, people just threaten. There are many of them. I continue to think that I thank my God for working with President Obasanjo, because he was quite different from the picture that was painted before I met him. There was somebody who went to the president to say I must be removed from office because of the questions I asked. And the president said, what happened? He said, oh, I was very rude and I was abusing them, I was abusing the party and so on and so forth. The president didn't know that this transpired in a program. He thought I met him somewhere and I was hard on him or something. So the president asked for me and he was asking me, why are you doing this to people who you know will agitate for your removal and all of that? Say, what is your response? What's your problem with such and such a man? So I told him that, no, he came to my program and I asked him a question. The president said, he came to your program? I said, yes. You mean it? And he took his phone and called the man and said, you came here to report so-so person to me. Is it true that you went to his program? The man said, yes. Said, you went to that program? I said, yes. Have you ever seen me on that program?
Now, he fired you 5 times or threatened to fire you 5 times. But I don't think he ever did.
No, he didn't. Well, you know, once somebody goes to make a report, he would certainly react. And then when he hears my side of the story, all the threats about firing me will go down. But what I remember, and I like to always remember about the president, is that the 5th time, he told me, say, I should remind him that he will never sack me.
All right. Well, the NIPR congratulated the FG for what it called sector-based university, a fallout of the granting of license for TIUC, that is Tonnie Iredia University of Communications. What is the idea behind this, the motivation and the all-consuming objective for establishing such?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. You see, over the years, I have come to find that there are many things that are wrong with our society that people are not making any effort to change. Having been in the field, having worked in the media, and later gone to the academics, I had both sides of the terrain, and I knew what the problem was. I knew, for example, that the training of journalists in Nigeria was not sufficient. I know we're just producing university graduates. We needed to produce experts, people who know everything about a particular subject area that they are interested in. If you want to be a broadcaster, you should acquire a degree in broadcasting. You should not be reading bogus things like mass communication and all the other things that you don't really need. Yes, you can have elective courses, but the focus should be on that which you went for. And so at the end of the day, you'll be so grounded in that subject that nobody can push you here and there.
What maybe I could call fit for purpose.
Good. So that is probably one of the reasons why the media is not able to stand the politicians, because the media are not experts. They don't, you see, we don't have a situation where a body of knowledge is put on the ground. Like, for example, if you sack a journalist, the next journalist, will he do what the last one did? If the answer is no, something is wrong. If you sack a medical doctor, the next one you take is going to do what that former person did, because that is the way it ought to be done. All right? So because we don't have that systematized education that makes every journalist take a particular perspective of an issue from point of view of professionalism, you can afford to sack a journalist, and the next person will begin to do what you want rather than what ought to be done. Now, I am saying that if we are able to produce experts, that will change. The people will begin to respect journalists and media professionals who tell you this is the best way to do this.
Now, you talked about professionals. In what specific ways will this deepen professionalism, enhance excellence in work environment, and boost productivity?
You see, the training is too periphery. You see, it ought to be detailed.
It's on the surface.
Yeah, for example, we have a course in mass communication called Media Law and Ethics, which I taught for a long time. All right? Good. In my university, we're not going to have media law and ethics. We will have media law, different from media ethics, so that the journalists come from that school, they will know the laws that guard and govern the media. They will also know the ethical values of the media, the things they cannot do and the things they can do, not necessarily because there's sanction, but because that's the ethical value of the profession. So people are not well grounded in those things. So they come around and do a lot of things that they ought not to do because they don't have sufficient knowledge. So it's not just about expertise, it's also about familiarization with the subject matter that you are coming to tell us that this is where you are, the subject matter. Look, for example, many governors have asked me, what do you think? I'm trying to recruit so person for my television or for my radio station. What is your advice? I tell him, I said, if you recruit a friend or a relation rather than an expert, that station is going to be talking to only you. Because the station will not be good and people will not watch. People will not tune in. So I always tell government when people harass the head of government, oh, change the people in NTA, change the people in FRC, change this one. When you change them into who you want, and the people will be merely doing the stories that you like, you are transmitting to yourself. Even those who mistakenly watch or tune to you will, at the end of it, say, oh, what station is this? Sorry, why did I tune there? So you see, no, the message doesn't go through. Meanwhile, you as the owner and representative of the people as government, you want your activities to go to the public. So it doesn't go to the public. Most times, government appointees, what do? They quarrel with those who criticize government. They quarrel. At the end of the day, what subsists is a quarrel. All right?
What shouldn't really be so.
What should subsist is the activities of government. What has that government done? What has it achieved? They leave that and quarrel with somebody who has been nasty to their principal. At the end of the day, the real issue is never answered. Because this person is there not to do what is right, but to make sure that the person who appointed
satisfies his principle.
That's it, is happy.
And that compromises the work ethics.
That's it.
And that's why you don't have experts.
That's it.
I think you've spoken to it a little bit. Maybe you speak to it more. Speak to merging theory. I think you've spoken to that. Merging theory and practice to ensure the graduates become, just like you said, maybe a little bit more experts and not just degree holders.
You see, in the classroom, what you find is a lot of principles and theories that most times have no relationship with practice. All right? I take a simple example. What is news? Oh, something fresh. As it's happening, you are catching it. The public gets to know. All right? Good. That's what they tell you in the classroom. When you come out and you are employed by Arise or Channels or NTA, anybody, you have come into that system with the mind of catching news as it's happening. And you are in the newsroom, a phone call comes in, and so oh, there's fire at so-so market. And you say, oh, wow, I must catch it. I must catch it. And because that's what they taught us. Then you run around, and then you find out there's no car to go there. Mm. You run around, and one of your colleagues volunteers his car. Then as you are sitting inside the car, you realize that there's no camera. Right? Because there are never enough of these facilities in the realities of life. By the time you finish the running around, the fire has ended. And so you cannot catch it fresh, which is what you were taught in school. Mm-hmm. So teaching in school ought to tell you that it's not every time you can catch something fresh. Teaching ought to focus on challenges of the profession.
Oh, all right.
Yes. The likelihood of barriers stopping you from meeting the ideals that are in the theories and principles of the profession.
So teaching you what to do when you encounter such barriers. Yes. So you're not caught unawares.
Yes. Teaching you to recognize that the theories are not perfect and that there are always hindrances between the theories and the reality that you meet on ground. Right? So you begin to now think of it. What makes news is really not necessarily something that is fresh, because the freshness is a subjective term. Because if you look at news, for example, you read news at 10, you repeat the same news at 11, you repeat it at 12. So when is it fresh? When is it fresh? So it means that news does not necessarily have to be fresh all the time.
I mean, someone said, talking about scoops and talking about being the one to get the news, someone said that what is really important is that over time, your station is known for correct news, not necessarily that you're getting the scoops and you're leading, but that over time, you establish as well.
It's slightly more than that. There's also the need for originality and exclusivity. If every station or every medium has the same story, the story becomes commonplace. All right? But if your own medium has a tendency of sending reporters out to cover events as they happen and not necessarily to events to which you were invited, you will now find a situation where the story covered by Arise may be that Arise was the only one there. So at the end of the day, it's only Arise that will have that story. And everybody will be looking for it. So I heard it on Arise. Everybody will still tune to Arise, waiting for you to bring it back. So that's exclusivity.
Yep.
That's originality. So you don't necessarily do what every other person is doing. So if you have that kind of robust attitude towards coverage of events, you find out that your station will be more patronized. People will say, and then after a while, when others carry stories, the viewers or the readers will say, did Arise also carry it? If they say no, say, I don't think the story is true. You see?
Yeah.
Because you have established yourself. That's the expertise that we're talking about.
Good. The issue, your background, the issue of funding and the question of why is it that in our own case, I'm talking about our environment, Nigeria as it were, a whole town should be the equivalent of a university. This was your response to a particular question.
A whole town?
Yeah,
okay, the requirements.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I'm sure that is changing now.
Yeah.
But that was the old system where they say for you to establish a university, you must have 100 hectares of land, all right? And you can imagine, where can you find 100 hectares of land? So I believe the people, especially the current ones at the NUC, they know the fact that this is not realistic, and it's better to begin to alter such things They are not cast in stone. So there's no reason why such rules cannot be amended, especially when the person is trying to establish my type of university, which is small-sized, professional. Why do you want to compel such a person to go and have a large size when what he has come to apply for is a small-sized? You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
So I think that should be another way. We must stop the idea of thinking that every university must be conventional. We need specialized universities that bring out graduates from different areas of expertise that can push the nation. See, when you look at what's happening in Nigeria, you hardly find a university that has either discovered anything, all right? Because there's no focus. But we begin to hear, oh, University of Hopkins, University of this, they have discovered so and so. Why are we not discovering them here? Because there's no focus.
And that's what TIUC intends to bring on board. Thank you so much for being on Arise Primetime Communication Scholar, broadcast journalist, lawyer, former DGNTA and NOA, now Chancellor of the newly licensed University of Communication, Benin City, the first in Africa. You said this is the second one. China has one like that. Professor Tonnie Iredia, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.